The mining colony on Kepler 442b was not supposed to be glamorous, and nobody expected it to be. But Jake Martinez had learned to appreciate the simple rhythm of life among the red dust and distant stars. He ran a small repair business from a converted cargo container, fixing everything from broken air recyclers to faulty gravity plating, and most days he was content with the honest work. The message came through on a Tuesday afternoon, short and direct, with coordinates to a residence on the outer rim of the settlement. Jake grabbed his toolkit and headed out in his rover, watching the twin suns cast long shadows across the prefab housing units. When he arrived at the address, he double-checked the coordinates, because the structure before him was unlike anything else in the colony. Where most buildings were standard-issue gray boxes, this one had curved walls and what looked like actual windows, not just view screens. He knocked and waited. The door opened and Jake forgot how to breathe. The woman standing before him was tall, easily 7 feet, with skin that shimmered like polished copper in the fading light, and her eyes were a deep violet that seemed to glow from within. She wore simple human clothing, jeans and a work shirt, but they could not hide the fact that she was not human. Her features were elegant, almost painfully beautiful, with high cheekbones and a graceful neck. 2 small ridges ran from her temples back into hair that looked like spun silver. She smiled, and Jake realized he had been staring. "Sorry," he managed to say. "I am Jake from Martinez Repairs." "I know," she said, and her voice had a musical quality that made his heart skip. "I am Vera, and thank you for coming on such short notice." She stepped aside and gestured for him to enter. The interior was as unusual as the exterior, with furniture that seemed to grow organically from the floor, and lighting that pulsed gently like a heartbeat. Plants he did not recognize filled every corner, their leaves moving slightly, despite no apparent breeze. "The garage light," she said, leading him through the living spaces in the back, "and I have tried everything, but it will not turn on. The colony gets so dark at night, and I do not like being without light." Jake followed her through a doorway into what should have been a storage area, but looked more like a workshop. Equipment he could not identify lined the walls, and in the center hung a light fixture that was definitely not standard human technology. "I see the problem," he said, after a moment examining the connections. "This is Valorian tech, right? And you have tried to wire it into a human power grid. The voltage is all wrong." Vera nodded, looking embarrassed. "I thought I could make it work, but I'm not very good with these things. My world, we have specialists for this." Jake set down his kit and started pulling out tools. "Well, you are in luck, because adapting alien tech is kind of my specialty." He worked in comfortable silence for a while, aware of Vera watching him from the doorway. The challenge was interesting, and he found himself enjoying the puzzle of making 2 incompatible systems talk to each other. "You are very good at this," Vera said softly. Jake glanced up and caught her studying him with an expression he could not quite read. "Thanks," he said. "Just takes practice and a willingness to get shocked a few times." She laughed, and the sound filled the room like music. "I have been here for 6 months," she said, "and you are the first person who has not seemed afraid of me." Jake paused in his work. "Afraid? And why would anyone be afraid of you?" She moved closer, and he could see sadness in those violet eyes. "Because I am different, and because humans and Valorians have a complicated history." Jake had heard stories, of course, about the war that had ended before he was born, about battles fought light years away. But that was ancient history as far as he was concerned. "I do not care about the past," he said, returning to his work. "You needed help, and I am here to help, and that is all that matters." The silence that followed felt different, somehow charged with something unspoken. Jake finished the final connection and flipped the switch. The light blazed to life, casting a warm glow across the workshop. "There you go," he said, stepping back. "Should work perfectly now." Vera clapped her hands together, delighted. "Thank you so much, and how much do I owe you?" Jake quoted his standard rate, and she transferred the credits without hesitation. Then she hesitated, her hand still on her data pad. "No, this is forward," she said. "But would you like to stay for dinner, and I make a decent meal even by human standards? And I would enjoy the company." Jake knew he should probably say no. He had other jobs waiting, and staying for dinner with a client was not exactly professional, but something in her expression, the hope mixed with resignation, made him nod. "I would like that," he said. Dinner turned out to be surprisingly normal. Vera had clearly studied human cuisine, and she served pasta with vegetables from her garden that tasted like nothing Jake had ever experienced. They talked easily about everything and nothing. She told him about her homeworld, about oceans that glowed at night and cities that floated in the clouds. He told her about growing up on Earth, about his grandmother who had taught him to fix things and why he had come to this distant colony. The hours slipped by unnoticed. When Jake finally checked the time, he was startled to see it was past midnight. "I should go," he said reluctantly. Vera walked him to the door, and under the porch light her skin seemed to shimmer even more. "Thank you," she said. "Not just for the repair, but for treating me like a person." Jake smiled. "You are welcome, and if you ever need anything else fixed, you know who to call." He was halfway to his rover when she called out Jake. He turned. She stood in the doorway, backlit by the warm glow from inside. "The light you fixed," she said. "It is going to need calibration, and these Valorian systems require adjustment every few hours for the first week. Could you come back tomorrow night?" Jake felt his pulse quicken. "Sure," he said, trying to sound casual. "And what time?" "Whenever you can," she replied, "and maybe stay a while again, and I will cook something different." "Deal," he said, over. The next week, Jake found reasons to visit every evening. The light did need calibration, that much was true, but they both knew it did not require hours of conversation and shared meals on the 8th night as they sat on her porch watching the stars emerge. Jake finally asked the question that had been nagging at him. "Why are you here and on this colony? And I mean, you could be anywhere." Vera was quiet for a long moment. "Because everywhere else people see me as a symbol," she said finally, "of the war. Of the alliance of everything except just me, and here on this forgotten little rock I thought maybe I could just be Vera." Jake understood that better than she probably realized. "We are all running from something," he said. She looked at him, and in the starlight, her eyes seemed to hold entire galaxies. "What are you running from?" "Expectations," he admitted, "and everyone back on Earth had plans for my life, and none of them involved what I wanted, so you came here." "So I came here," he confirmed. They sat in comfortable silence, watching a meteor shower paint streaks across the sky. Vera shifted closer until their shoulders touched. "Is it working?" she asked softly. "And are you finding what you wanted?" Jake thought about his small business, about the satisfaction of fixing things, about quiet evenings and honest work. And he thought about the woman beside him who had somehow become the best part of his days. "Yeah," he said. "And I think maybe I am." Vera took his hand, her fingers warm against his. "The light in the garage," she said, "is working perfectly now, and you know that, right?" Jake smiled. "I know. You could stop coming. I could." He agreed. "And do you want me to?" She turned to face him fully, and the vulnerability in her expression made his heart ache. "No," she whispered, "and I really do not." "Then I will keep coming," he said, "and not for the light." "Good," she said, and leaned her head on his shoulder. They stayed like that, watching the stars wheel overhead. Two people from different worlds who had somehow found each other in the vast loneliness of space. And in that moment, Jake realized that home was not a place,